on-site sanitation is one of the important aspects impacting both economy, public health, and overall quality of life. Now, we think that this is only a case or situation relevant for only countries like Africa or India or maybe Philippines, emerging economies. Not completely true. This is also a situation in Japan, and Japan is also going through this transition, but they have created a very fabulous institutional mechanism to make it a perfect solution. It's not like a piecemeal solution, but they covered all aspects of it. And that's the reason we thought it is very important to introduce Hashimoto-san, who is an authority in this area. He comes from this a sort of a consortium of on-site sanitation think tanks in Japan. And he's going to introduce to us how Japan has evolved and how Japan has actually strengthened this whole on-site sanitation situation with a clear purpose of improving overall quality of public health and also environmental quality of rivers and water bodies. Very, very important, very relevant for each and every town and each and every situation in India, in Bangladesh, in Nepal, and all the countries that we are representing from. So without taking much time, I would now request Hashimoto-san, who came for the inaugural session. He has given a glimpse of his talk during the inaugural session to give us the complete picture of how Japan is looking at citywide inclusive sanitation. What are the solutions and options you deploy, and how do you perfect these solutions? How do you strengthen the ecosystem of sanitation improvement in your country? Over to you, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Charlie. Can you hear me? You are
listening. Hear you very well. Thank you.
Okay. So I like to start my presentation. So could you? Yes.
We can see it very well. Thank you. We can see it.
Okay. I am, first of all, I am Kazushi Hashimoto, advisor at Japan Sanitation Consortium. Today, I will explain the institutional framework of on-site wastewater and septage management in Japan. Next slide, please. And could you please show the video? Yes. Okay. Video is not working.
You may have to close.
Some might think Japan's sanitation model can't
So you may have to close this. We just see the slide right now. We hear the video.
Okay. I have to stop share and.
Yeah. Thank you.
Just now start the video from the beginning.
Yes, 1 second.
No problem.
This may change. Known for its spotless streets and advanced infrastructure, some might think Japan's sanitation model can't be that relevant to emerging Asia. This may change upon a closer look at its uniquely evolved sanitation mechanism. Japan's close to full coverage sanitation system runs on 2 wheels: a centralized sewerage system and Jokaso, an affordable and easy to install on-site facility. In the latter model could present a possible solution for developing economies in advancing citywide inclusive sanitation. It may be a surprise, but Japan's modern sanitation history does not trace back that far. Because of the long and well-established practice of using night soil as fertilizer, it took the outbreak of cholera in 1880 for the country to fully address the need to regulate water supply and waste treatment for improved hygiene. New legislation banned discharging untreated wastewater into the environment. This paved the way for the idea of an on-site night soil treatment system that became the foundation of today's jokaso. Then came World War II that ended in 1945 and destructed much of Japan's infrastructure, including that for sanitation. In an effort to swiftly recover and expand sanitation services throughout the country, post-war Japan opted to develop multiple sanitation models simultaneously. While populated areas started building centralized sewerage systems, jokaso became an option in rural and suburban areas. Having these multiple options allowed municipalities to identify and implement the most efficient sanitation system for their topography. In the 1950s, Japan also brought an end to the night soil recycling system, largely due to the introduction of chemical fertilizers, further increasing the need for modern sanitation. This pressure increased further as the nation entered the economic miracle phase in the 1960s, which brought the rapid development of urban areas. The current jokaso model that can be installed at an individual household became available in the 1980s. This jokaso is capable of treating all the household wastewater, not just from toilet, but also from kitchen and bathroom. The Japanese government at the time began developing various legal frameworks, subsidy schemes, as well as public-private partnerships to promote jokaso. These policies provided incentives for private companies to devise quality jokaso products and carry out appropriate operation and maintenance. From 1987 to 2015, the government invested approximately 415 billion Japanese yen for the promotion of jokaso. Jokaso offers many advantages as an innovative sanitation alternative. It can treat wastewater as effectively as a sewage treatment plant. It can be installed for individual houses, apartment blocks, as well as commercial facilities within a few days. And the costs are far less than that of sewerage. This is why an average of 120,000 new jokaso are being installed across Japan every year. Standing in his sunny backyard in a rural community just north of Tokyo, Mr. Yamada describes how jokaso enhanced his standard of living. He and his family have been using jokaso since 2014 after the plan to extend sewerage in his community was canceled due to budgetary constraints.
家は浄化槽の前は汲み取り便所だったんですけれども、トイレは水洗になって大変便利になりましたし、清潔になりました。
Beyond the comfort and convenience, what puts a smile on his face is the awareness that he is now taking part in improving water quality in the rivers in his neighborhood.
以前は台所の水、洗濯の水と川にそのまま流していたので、川を汚す犯人の一人になったんですね。ですから非常に心苦しい思いをしてましたけども、今は非常にきれいな水が流れてますので、鼻高々でいられます。
In Japan, jokaso installation is now mandatory when building a house outside the service area. The government has defined treatment methods and a structure that must be adhered to. Jokaso manufacturing and sales also require government approval. To promote nationwide sanitation, subsidies are available to homeowners to cover the jokaso construction fee. Jokaso installation, maintenance, desludging, and legal inspection must be handled by registered or approved private companies, and the operation must be carried out in accordance with the Jokaso Act that was passed in 1983. Only qualified personnel who has been trained and passed exams can engage in maintenance and operation. In the past 5 decades, approximately 200,000 people took the required training and passed the exams on jokaso-related works, including installation, operation, and maintenance conducted by JECES, a government-authorized institution in Tokyo. These examinations and trainings could also be taken at other designated locations across Japan. Those involved in jokaso businesses are subjected to fine or imprisonment if they violate the provisions of the Jokaso Act. This comprehensive operation and monitoring structure support the high-quality sanitation that the use of jokaso provides. Japan's innovative approach in developing its sanitation infrastructure helped get Japan where it is today, a place where people enjoy high-level hygiene and its health benefits. It also presents a useful policy lesson for those involved in sanitation development in Asia and the Pacific, especially in the wake of the pandemic, which has highlighted the even more urgent need for equitable, quality sanitation.
Okay, so thank you very much. So could you please return to the presentation? Okay, third page, please. Next. Okay. In the video, you might have seen evolution of Japan's on-site sanitation and understood what jokaso is. You might also have heard that the comprehensive operation and monitoring structure established in Japan supports high-quality sanitation that the use of jokaso provides. Today, I'd like to explain more in details of the operation and monitoring structure established in Japan for the on-site sanitation system. And what I would like to stress the most is that the core element of those operation and monitoring structure is good not only for jokaso, but also for any on-site system, including septic tanks. Key issue and challenge of on-site wastewater treatment system in developing countries. Policy on fecal sludge and septage management in 2018 published by state government of Telangana described key sanitation issues and challenges in Telangana state in India as follows. 1. On-site systems are often dramatically undersized, faultily designed, and poorly constructed. 2. Limited capacities and resources with local government and the absence of regulations on maintenance and cleaning of on-site system are a major challenge. 3. Fecal sludge is dumped on drains and open areas, posing considerable health and environmental risks. 4. Sanitary workers work in hazardous conditions, manually cleaning on-site system without adequate protective gear and equipment. 5. There is a general lack of awareness on on-site system among the system owners and the local governments, which results in pollution of ground and surface water bodies. I believe that the situation in not only other places in India, but also in other developing countries would not be much different from the situation in Telangana state. And some of these problems currently seen in developing countries were also seen in Japan decades ago. It was reported that in 1960 to 1970s, more than 50 years ago, before the promulgation of On-Site System Act, Jokaso Act in 1983, the use of the old type Jokaso, which treats only black water, had expanded rapidly in Japan. But the development of the concerned legal and administrative system had lagged behind, resulting in the pollution of public water bodies and in various troubles, such as the disputes among neighbors on the noise and odors caused by the unregulated use of the old type Jokaso. At the time, many old type Jokaso were installed, while the users were unaware that their facilities were not properly registered and utilized without proper maintenance and desludging, resulting in insufficient treatment performances. At the time, anybody could install it at anywhere, as far as it met the standards on the site. And by then, although the equipment geared for dislodging operators had already been modernized in Japan, dislodging operators continued to suffer stigma. Next slide, please. Next slide, please. Yes, this slide. Fundamental issue of on-site system. Politicians and government officials tend to consider that on-site sanitation is not their job. It is a private matter. But it's not even a private matter since people do not take care of their on-site system. On-site system is no person's land. Next slide. Next, please. What is the most important for the on-site sanitation? My answer is that on-site sanitation must be a public matter, which politicians and the administration needs to take care of. In Japan, it is very much a public matter. I will explain how Japan makes on-site sanitation a public matter. Next slide, please. The challenge is of on-site systems in developed countries and how Japan's public sector responds to the corresponding issues are summarized in this table. I will explain each challenge and Japan's response one by one. Next slide, please. Next, please. Yes. In order to ensure a proper design of the on-site system, manufacturing of on-site system is the area which is relatively easy for industrialists to enter. If not regulated properly, many on-site systems of lesser quality and performance may appear in the market, and the customers may not make a proper selection. In Japan, in order to ensure good performance of on-site system, structural standards, government approval, and the performance testing system plays important role. A corporate body that intends to manufacture on-site system in factory must receive an approval issued by the central government for the types of on-site system to be manufactured. Such approval is issued when the application for this on-site system meets the standard, structural standard of the targeted on-site system prescribed in the building standard law. Structural standard consists of the technical standard for treatment performances such as BOD and the standard on the structural matters such as the minimum size of tanks per capita. If a manufacturer intends to manufacture a new type of on-site system which do not meet the structural standard, for example, more compact size than the standard enabled by the use of new technologies, the performance of this new type of on-site system must be tested by a designated testing institution. Next slide, please. Next, please. Yes. Performance test is conducted for the period sufficient to check the treatment performance in the different weather condition, temperatures. If it is done in the outside where temperature is not controlled, it takes 48 weeks, near a year. Next, please. Next slide, please. In order to monitor the compliance with the structural standards of the on-site system of the newly built house or buildings, in Japan, under the building standard law, all the new buildings and houses are subject to the building confirmation and inspections conducted by the building officials of a local government. If conformity with building standards is recognized, a building official issues a confirmation certificate. The building officials is the qualified person on judgment of the conformity with building standards registered by the Minister of Land, Infrastructure and Transport who has passed the national examination. Next slide, please. This is a flowchart of building conformation in Japan. I know the similar system exists in other countries. For example, in Jakarta, Indonesia, there is a similar system, and it is applied to large buildings as a part of environmental impact assessment. But it is not applied for small houses in reality, although on paper it must be applied. In Japan, even I build my house for only my family, I must obtain the building's confirmation. All the application procedure will be handled by the house builder on my behalf. You may wonder how a building official can handle all the applications made by numerous house owners and check all aspects of the house building, including the structure of the on-site system. He needs to have a tremendously wide knowledge on various aspects of house building, including those on the on-site system. Is it possible? Is he superhuman existence? No, he doesn't need to be a superhuman. Standardization helps. As for the on-site system, what the building official needs to check are, firstly, whether the type of the on-site system which is described in the building confirmation application is the one approved by the government or not. Secondly, whether the name of the on-site system construction vendor, which is described in the building confirmation application, is on the list of the on-site system construction vendors registered to the local government or not. If both answers are yes, he will issue the confirmation certificate. Next slide, please. In order to ensure proper installation of the on-site system so that the access for the operation maintenance, including the desludging works and the inspection by the third party is secured. Such system in which the installation work is conducted by the well-trained installation vendors and workers needs to be established. In Japan, the installation system for the installation business and the certification and examination system for the installation workers plays important role in this regard. In Japan, the persons who want to manage an on-site system construction vendor are subject to the legislation with the local government. The on-site system construction vendor must assign an on-site system installation worker in each place of the business. The license for such workers is issued to those who have passed the examination for on-site system installation workers administered by the designated examination agency. Next slide, please. In order to ensure proper management of the sludge, in Japan, regular desludging is made a legal obligation of the owner or user of on-site system by the promulgation of the On-Site System Act, Jokaso Act. The owner or user of an on-site system installed in a house or building and who is authorized to manage this facility is under the On-Site System Act legally designated as the manager of the on-site system. The On-Site System Act mandates these managers to dislodge their on-site system once a year, work that can be entrusted to an on-site system dislodging vendor. Next slide, please. In order to ensure proper dislodging operations, while providing job opportunity and social status for this profession, if not regulated in the developing countries, the dislodging operators may dump the fecal sludge on drains and open areas, posing considerable health and environmental risks. Another problem is that in many developing countries, sanitary workers work in hazardous conditions, manually cleaning on-site systems without adequate protective gears and equipment. In Japan too, in the past, dislodging workers used to suffer from the stigma. Thus, approval system of desludging vendor is established in order to ensure proper desludging operations while providing job opportunity and social status for this profession. A corporate body that intends to join desludging business needs to obtain the approval of the mayor of the municipality targeted to this business. By getting mayor's approval, the desludging operators are deemed as being engaged in the important works for general citizens and can get rid of the stigma. This approval may be for a limited period and is issued if the desludging equipment and the applicant's capacity as the desludging vendor conform to the technical standards prescribed by ministerial ordinance. The applicant must also show no record of violating the Onsite System Act, JOCASO Act, during the 2 years preceding the application. In developing countries too, the approval of desludging operators should not be the one-time approval, but the approval with a limited period in order to ensure the quality of the works and to make sure that the administration of the municipal government considers that the monitoring of desludging operators is their important job. Next slide, please. In order to ensure proper disposal of the on-site sludge, in Japan, nice soil treatment facilities were built nationwide by the local government pursuant to the public cleansing law promulgated in 1954, mandating every municipality to develop solid waste treatment capacity as well as sludge treatment capacity. And this was before the start of the nationwide development of sewage treatment plants. More than 1,000 nice soil treatment facilities were built before 1970, and the same facilities are being used for the treatment of JOCASO sludge now. Next slide, please. In order to ensure proper operation and maintenance of on-site system, for the septic tanks, regular desludging may be the only way to maintain its limited treatment performance. But for the advanced on-site systems such as JOCASO in Japan, since it has few mechanical equipment, periodic check and adjustment of the equipment, including supplementing disinfectant, is essential to maintain its treatment performance. In Japan, household type small-sized JOCASO were widely used by residential users. Even in developing countries where residential users are using low-cost on-site systems such as septic tanks or pit latrines, commercial users are introducing JOCASO or a similar type of advanced on-site system for hotels, office buildings, apartments, shopping malls, etc. But they are not properly maintained. In Japan, users' legal obligation for operation maintenance, deployment of technical supervisor for large-scale on-site system, and the registration system for operation maintenance vendors ensure proper operation maintenance of JOCASO. The On-Site System Act, JOCASO Act, requires the owner of JOCASO to operate and maintain their JOCASO in conformance with the frequencies specified in the ministerial ordinance. Once in every 4 months for small-scale JOCASO, more frequent intervals for medium and large-scale JOCASO for commercial buildings. The owner of JOCASO must deploy the qualified on-site system technical supervisor when the number of users exceeds 500 population equivalent. The owner of such a large-sized Jokaso system are mandated to keep record of its performance and submit it to the local government once instructed according to the provision of water pollution control law. The frequency of maintenance works required for such a large Jokaso specified in the ministerial ordinances as frequent as 1 to 2 weeks intervals. Such requires the deployment of technical supervisor who does such works on behalf of the owner. The owner of Jokaso may entrust OM work, operation maintenance work to the on-site system maintenance vendors, which is subject to registration with the local government. The proper operation maintenance, including the sludge management of the large-sized on-site system of commercial users, would be important from the political economy viewpoint. If the rich users are not behaving properly, how could we expect that the ordinary residential users behave properly? Next slide, please. In order to secure the qualified human resources required for maintenance of on-site systems, the owner or the user of the on-site system do not have a knowledge on operation maintenance of their systems. It is not realistic to expect that they do these works by themselves. It is dangerous work for non-professionals too. Therefore, it is essential to create a system in which qualified professionals do these works on behalf of the owner or users. In Japan, certification and examination system for the operation maintenance technicians secures the qualified human resources required for maintenance of on-site system. The on-site system maintenance vendor is required to use this certified on-site system operator in the actual operation maintenance work. To be certified, the on-site system operator needs to pass the on-site system operator examination. This is the national examination, or complete a training course administered by the designated training institution. Next, please. In order to raise awareness of the on-site system, even in Japan, there is a general lack of awareness on on-site system among the residents and the local governments. The people who are in a position to be affected the most by the deficiency of on-site system would be those who make a living by the on-site sanitation management. For example, the installation business, the desludging operators, and the maintenance vendors of the on-site systems. In order to raise the awareness of these people, training institutions were established. Japan Education Center for Environmental Sanitation, JECS, one of these training institutions was established in 1966 to provide training for professionals in the business related to on-site system, Jokaso. In 1984 and 85, national examinations for on-site system operator and on-site system installation workers started. JCS was designated as the agency for training course and the agency for the examinations by the On-Site System Act, Jokaso Act. The JCS training program are entirely financed by the training fees paid by the trainee. No government subsidies are provided for the JECS training course. The trainee pays the training fee since once they obtain the certificate for completing the training course or passing the national examination, their job opportunities and salaries in the future are guaranteed by the provision of the On-Site System Act. Next, please. In order to develop the necessary human resource for the on-site system in Japan, through the examinations and training course administered by JECS, more than 3,000 on-site system technicians newly join the on-site system business every year. It is worth noted that many of the desludging vendors send their staff for the training course for on-site system operators and transform themselves to the maintenance vendors, thus getting rid further from the stigma. Next, please. In order to ensure environmental accountability, in many countries, not limited to developing countries, due to the general lack of interest on the on-site system, the performance of the on-site system is usually not properly monitored. This may result in the lack of accountability and weak support from both the general public and the government. In order to overcome such a situation and to make the on-site system accountable, in Japan, there is a system in which effluent water quality of all the jokaso are checked periodically. The owner or user of jokaso are legally obligated to accept the inspection of their on-site system by a designated inspection agency once a year and pay the inspection fee. In this legal inspection, not only the effluent water quality, but also the appropriateness of the desludging works and the operation maintenance works, particularly observance of the rules on their frequency, are checked. The head of local government shall appoint the designated inspection agency, the staff of which are usually trained by the training institution, JCS. In 2017, out of 7.6 million units of jokaso installed all over Japan, 3.3 million units, 43%, were actually inspected. It seems for me to be a great achievement, but the government of Japan is not satisfied with this coverage ratio of the inspection and is willing to increase it. Next, please. Effects of Japan's on-site system. People, not only general public, but also the professionals, such as sewage engineers, tend to be dubious about the environmental effects of on-site system. But in Japan, the evidence tells that 85% of jokaso, which treats both black water and gray water, of which the effluent water quality were inspected during 2013, produced the effluent BOD less than 20 milligram per liter, which meets the effluent water quality standard. Next slide, please. In order to ensure compliance to the environmental regulation of the large-scale on-site system, the large-scale on-site system is subject to not only to the monitoring under the On-Site System Act, Jokaso Act, but also to the monitoring under the Water Pollution Control Law. The owner of the large-scale on-site system is required to comply with the effluent water quality standard. In case of no compliance, the head of local government may order to change the structure or the way of use of such a large-scale on-site system. The owner of the large-scale on-site system is required to measure the pollution level of their effluents and keep records of the measured findings. The head of local government may call for a report from the owner of large-scale on-site system concerning the condition of the on-site system, the method of treatment of polluted water, etc., and other necessary matters, or may have his officials enter the factory or building and inspect the on-site system or other related matters. Next slide, please. This table is a summary of Japan's response to the challenge of on-site system. Next slide, please. Now, poll time. My question is, do you think that if the similar measures as taken in Japan are taken in India, India can respond to the challenge effectively? Please answer yes or no. Okay, do you prepare a quiz on that?
Sybil, can you launch the poll, please?
I'm not seeing the poll question. Can you please post?
Shall I show the results, sir? We have
Okay.
50 minutes.
Yeah, I'm seeing.
Oh,
Okay, so I found out that 60% of the people says yes. Yeah, that's very encouraging. Okay, so let's go to my conclusion. Next slide, please. My conclusion is that in order to improve the onsite system in other countries, it may not be necessary to make the same framework as the one in Japan. It must be the one which reflects the unique situation of each country. Having said that, the framework in Japan would be a useful reference for any country which wants to improve the onsite system, since the issues and challenge to be dealt are the same in Japan and in any other countries. So thank you very much for your attention.
So, Professor Chari, how would you like to conduct this? Would you just like to say a few sentences and there are questions? If you'd like me to get the questions for you, I can do that and you can coordinate.
Yeah. So, friends, let me put it this way. This is the most important session for us from India and South Asia standpoint. And I feel that we've been a little rushed, but it's very important for each one of us to understand not just the technology bit. I know many of us are engineers, so we get tempted to look at the technology piece of a JPASO system. But the way they have developed the ecosystem for on-site sanitation to treat both night soil as well as grey water, which they call it as wastewater. So I just like to make one important I would like to draw attention of all of you to what Hashimoto-san has presented as a summary. And I would like Josna to put that summary slide back on the screen. And we will have 2-3 minutes of discussion and a question answer session around those. Yeah, this one, yeah, even before starting the session also, this slide was there. So he went in a very structured way of listing out challenges in India and how Japan has responded to those challenges. When I say India, it's not just India, but South Asia in general. So I would like each one of us, let's look at these 10 to 11 challenges on the screen on the left side and how they manage to respond to those challenges is very, very important. This is a takeaway for us. And I take the liberty of, repeating a bit of what Hashimoto-san has said for the benefit of all of us. Number one, the on-site sanitation is a public service. Unlike many of us we think, and which has been repeated again and again, On-site sanitation is a public service done by public institutions, maybe through public-private partnership through involving private sector also. But first and the foremost thing that Hashimoto-san has mentioned, that on-site sanitation like sewer systems, whether it is Delhi, Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Varanasi, Kanpur, the sewer systems are not managed by citizens. It's managed by the water utilities or municipalities. Likewise, this whole on-site sanitation system in a structured way is managed by the public service delivery institution, be it municipality or any other agency. That's number one. Number two, we have, first and the foremost thing he said was, unless and until the on-site system designs are proper, we cannot meet the discharge standards. It will become a input-output inbox. You put some garbage in and garbage out. So it's very important to regulate it. That's what he said. That's where they have what is called structural standards, government approval systems, performance testing, even at the manufacturing level. These are like package systems, right from manufacturing, design standards, manufacturing, performance testing, material testing is done in a structured way. That is the first and the foremost thing that they have done. Many a times our septic tanks have no control. Even on-site sanitation systems, in the name of twin pit toilets, we build one single pit. Without many a times we don't have junction boxes. So this regulation and ensuring proper design is the first and the foremost thing, friends. Second thing is, I am repeating at the cost of repetition, but it because some of you have written, in what way it is relevant. And so second is monitoring of compliance with building standards. How do you ensure that this, whatever is the design, whatever is the product that is available is properly built in real life situation? In the video we saw how beautifully it was laid out, the design, the setbacks, the standards. So it has to confirm by the town planning or a building confirmation official deployed by the municipality or the local government. In our case, town planning department, like the way they do development control regulations, setbacks, fire safety norms. If there is an airport nearby, they check for the airport safety also. Likewise, the toilet Jacasso system is also regulated by the town planning building control. This is a second important lesson we don't learn. So unless the right kind of designs are there and right kind of products are taken to the ground, it will not have any system. It will not have significant improvement. Third is proper installation. Are our masons installing properly? Do they have double chamber, triple chamber systems? Do they have the level differences in our toilet infrastructure? Because we don't regulate them. So in this case, what Hashimoto-san has said, registration for installation business. It has created sanitation as Sitaram Garu says, sanitation is a new IT. It creates new opportunities. It has created jobs because they have installation business now. Only empaneled business, empaneled trained professionals only, those who have certified and passed the exams only can install the Jacasso system. It created jobs. That's what Hashimoto-san has said. Now, very important lesson, fourth lesson for us. Who is responsible? Who is the owner of this? Is it the municipality or the individual? The ownership in terms of the implementation rests squarely on the individual. Regulated by the local governments or government entity, but it is the responsibility of the individual, like our industry. Our industry, the ownership is defined by the director of the industry. Likewise, in this case, the ownership of safety, security, periodicity, the regular desludging is squarely on the individual property owner, and they can be penalized. Now, sometimes these are not relevant, penalties and regulations in our system may not work, but it's important to recognize are so important for treatment infrastructure. So again, it's a part of the ecosystem. Operation and maintenance. One is a building, installing and getting it right in at the construction stage. But how about operation and maintenance? So regulatory regime for implementing a right kind of solution. I hope I have summarized, Hashimoto-san, just your slide. I try to contextualize for our friends, whether it is Hyderabad or whether it is in Varanasi, these are applicable. These steps are very, very important for us to take away. It is not a one-time exercise. It is not a one-time journey. It's a process and it requires considerable state level, national level commitment. More than the national level commitment, state level commitment in our case is very important, and we collectively has to advocate for such strong regulatory and institutional capacity building in this case. If I remove any one of these pieces, it may not give the right kind of outcomes. So that's why Hashimoto-san has said it's the technology piece, regulatory piece, town planning piece, then human resource piece. All of these are important. Training piece, all have come together. And sanitation, rightly said, is a state subject. So we should collectively advocate. Many of our FSSM acts have some of these provisions, may not be very robust, but I think the point we need to learn from this experience is we need to make these things work collectively. That's the message I would like to all of us to take away. Now, couple of points that Hashimoto-san, we need clarity from you, sir. Number one, is the Jokaso technology patented?
Okay. Yeah. As far as I know, Jokaso is now being manufactured in India.
Yes.
Yeah, there are, I know two manufacturers. One is Daiki.
Daiki.
Yeah, and another is Syntex. And so now technology is available in India. And as far as I know, their main target is commercial users. And I consider, Jokaso is at this point of time, not for common citizens, but for commercial users. So, and as for institutional frameworks, which I have explained, I do agree that to apply whole of Japanese regulations to everybody, every customer in India is very difficult. So my recommendation is to start as for the some regulations on operation and maintenance and inspection or like that. You had better start with commercial users. But other aspects like dislodging obligations or dislodging vendors, how to let them work appropriately and how to give them the social status. You can start for dislodging vendors who is dislodging septic tanks or pit rattling. So that's
So
my recommendation.
The advice given by Ashipota-san is we can start with bulk waste producers, commercial, institutional, hospitals, healthcare establishments. So we can start with bulk care like the way municipal solid waste management regulation has said, 100 kgs generation per day is a bulk waste generator. Likewise, the bulk waste generators generating wastewater can be, we can start with similar introduction of the JACASO model, not just the technology, but the model of framework, as he said, can be introduced. But as he said, many manufacturers complying with the standards regulated by them are available in our country. Daiki being one of them, Syntex is another. So there are multiple service providers as far as the technology is concerned. But the regulation piece and others, we have to work around with the governments. Sir, one more question. Dr. Malini, there are one or two questions and I'll leave it to you. The cost of the system, CAPEX and OPEX, the cost of the system, CAPEX, OPEX, we will share with you. The Indian costs are available. This is probably applicable for Nepal, or it can be applicable for Bangladesh, similar costing. So we will share with you. Need not just look at international cost, because now it has been started, indigenization of the manufacturing has happened. We'll be very happy to share with you. But as he said, it may not be immediately viable for an individual household, a family of 4 or 5. Start with the commercial and institutional properties. Sir, one question that somebody asked is, what do you think could be the biggest challenge in implementing JOCASO Act in India, based on your experience of Japan? This is a very tricky question, because you can't be giving what could be the challenge. But
yeah, so I can explain what was the challenge in Japan. When Japan made the JOCASO Act in 1983. So this concept of improvement of on-site sanitation involves so many stakeholders, with so many ministries are involved. So nobody can draft the law. No ministry can draft the law, the JOCASO Act. So therefore, in Japan, parliamentarians drafted the original draft of JOCASO Act, because no ministries are willing to do that. So that means that to make such a law really needs political will to do that. Since there are so many stakeholders, and the adjustment of interests of these stakeholders are what only politicians can do. So that may be in India also, there will be the similar problem, similar challenges.
It's a universal challenge, not only in India, but all over. So he's saying political will was one of their, I would say, a challenge that they had to address through various advocacy and other methods. So I think I totally agree. Convincing, I think one is a political, but also administrative buy-in, because administrators also feel, oh, this is a lot of work. Right now, it is a citizens' problem. Now, if we say that it is a public service, then administrators and city leaders also may feel, oh, this is more burden. So I think political will and administrative support is super important in Indian context. Dr. Sitaram, would you like to comment on your perspective about what could be the biggest challenge for adaptation of such proper framework in South Asia?
No, I don't want to disagree with any of the discussion. So I hope that through the course, at the end of the course, we can ask the same question. Because doing something is more difficult than discussing why something cannot be done. So if I have the answer, I'm not greater than any of you, you would have all solved it. The point is that to innovate something, we have to deeply think and actually try. So this lecture was not one of the other lectures. I thank Professor Chari for also pepping you up. This one was actually intentionally written, and I almost compelled Hashimoto-san, and we both went to ASCII and actually delivered his lecture on site in ASCII. We visited other places.
You also met Chief Secretary.
Exactly. We told and met the Chief Secretary. Why? Because I truly believe that I have to give you a credible example. But I don't have the answer for India like that. If that is that simple, then we would have solved it. So that's why we are having this course. Together we have to crack it. Each one of you is a champion. It's not like just cookie cutter and then we give you the answer and then you go and do it. No, it's much more difficult. That's why this course is there. So please think deeply how you can do something different. But the good message is that it is worth doing. When we talk to politicians, we tell them that sanitation is good for politics. In fact, there's empirical evidence. Political leaders who champion sanitation got re-elected. To business people, we tell them sanitation is fantastic business. That is IT business. To people like you attending the course here, if you are a civil servant, yes, several generations will be grateful to you if you fix sanitation for your city or town. But it's not easy. So I beg you, think about it deeply. I hope this was helpful, Chari.
This is very, very useful. Thank you so much. Very important question asked by Mr. Sujoy about do we need a national act or a national intervention? Sir, I would like to say that the concept of JUCASO and the principles are there in the CPHO manual on wastewater management. I think we need to work at the state level because many times sanitation is looked at as a state subject, and if we can crack in one or two states, as Dr. Sitaram mentioned, I think we can easily replicate. Initially, nobody believed FSSM is going to be a reality in India, but now you see there is a momentum, there is positivity around it. So I think this also requires certain amount of quick demonstration by one or two states through leadership, through like yourselves, and then I think we can inform the national government to come up with a sort of a enabling framework, and maybe SBM 2.0 or 3.0 can actually push some of these or provide fiscal incentives to take it forward. I think we have to set some demonstration at the state level. Thank you. Dr. Manli, any other questions? I was actually not giving too much of attention on the chat box for a while. Can you?
No, sir, I think all the questions related to the policy and regulatory framework are covered. There are some operational questions such as, as you mentioned, the CapEx, OpEx, but also questions like is it heavy on electricity requirement? What would large scale retrofitting entail? For example, a city decides to go ahead. How does one go about with large scale retrofitting?
Yeah.
Also, can Jocasso be made locally? That means how easy are franchisees to take? And finally, is it profitable for the private sector, which is implementing and running the Jocasso? So these are some very interesting.
So I just like pick up one or two and then, taking a little more time because I'm excited about it. That's why sometimes in the process of excitement, we take a little more time. Hashimoto-san, this question of Mali, you mentioned the second question.
Large scale retrofitting, sir?
Yeah, retrofitting. Yeah. So Hashimoto-san, we have a legacy of septic tanks and we have pit, single pits, particularly in urban areas. Rural is somewhat better, but in urban areas, we have all sorts of solutions, suboptimal things. Now, in your case, you also went for retrofitting. What was the challenge in retrofitting? Was the government provided any incentive for households to retrofit? Can you give some ideas on that, sir?
Yeah, actually, that is still Japan is struggling. So when people build a new house, it is mandatory that they install Jocasso. But it's very difficult for them to persuade in the existing system to convert to Jocasso. Yeah, many people in Japan, about 10% of Japanese population is still using board toilet or old type Jocasso, which treats only black water. And our government wants them to change to Jocasso, which treats both gray water and black water for environmental viewpoint. And but it is not. It is still not very easy. Our government passed last year amendment of Jocasso law, which will give the municipalities more power to persuade, and to some extent to obligate the existing house owners to change their system as much as possible. But still, we need to see what is the reality is.
So this is a very important, friends. Every context has its own challenges. For your benefit of understanding, there is something called Jocasso 1, I think model 1, which was only like our septic tanks, was only treating the night soil or black water. Sorry, night soil, black water. The feces and the anal washings used to go only to the Jocasso 1 system. Now the grey water used to bypass the Jocasso, and that caused a lot of environmental pollution of the water bodies. Now Jocasso version 2, which is mandatory right now for the new properties and also for old, is where black and grey water goes through the system so that the output meets the discharge norms. So as Hashimoto-san said, there's 10% probably, some number. Persuading them is still an issue. The local governments are empowered to now slowly convert them. It's a process. So yes, this is one of the concerns even for our own system. Converting the existing systems to improved system is always a challenge. We have to live with it, and gradually, like the way we are now converting insanitary toilets to sanitary toilets in many states. Similarly, the so-called septic tanks, if they want to upgrade, then we have to think of incentives as well as disincentives to make these changes for public good. Dr. Mali, the next one question is, Hashimoto-san, they said, can these solutions be manufactured locally by anyone and everyone? Jokaso toilets, Jokaso systems, or it's manufactured by properly regulated manufacturers?
Okay, so I strongly recommend to create a kind of system to test the performance of Jokaso manufactured locally in India. So without such a system, yeah, there may be a lot of inferior Jokaso appears in market. So the standard and the testing is the very important. And on that, maybe Japan can help India to establish such a system.
I hope we got the clear message. It's not the technology, but the manufacturing process, the material standardization. Unless it is regulated, we may end up with inferior quality products, diluted versions, so which will not get the right results. So I think,
Professor Chari, I just want to chip in one more point here that while one part is the technology and standards for technology, the real reason the system works so well is this beautifully trained professionals who are maintaining it very well, where there is a monthly maintenance. So therefore, even if a city goes ahead and passes a regulation and implements the infrastructure, they need to first think about the system for maintenance as well for it to run well. And in Japan, when we went and saw, there are systems which are running for 15 years beautifully, and every month systematic maintenance. So I think that's a discipline that we also need to drive home.
any other points, Dr. Malini? Mr. Azim Khan asked a question. I couldn't really understand. He said, is this bioremediation? I don't know why he asked this question. This is
the question was, is it an alternative of bioremediation?
No. It is
Mr. Azim Khan.
It is like any other conventional wastewater treatment, aerobic, anaerobic combination, anoxic. It also removes nitrates, and then it has a chlorination component also for pathogen reduction. So to meet the discharge norms. So it is not a sort of a bioremediation in that sense.
Yeah. So Professor Chari, we would develop a FAQ on this because particularly there are questions on CAPEX, OPEX, who are the manufacturers in India. So we will share these. We have these, Dr. Hema, we will share all these as part of our FAQs for this session.
And the other thing I would like to encourage Dr. Malini, if Hashimoto-san agrees, and if it is a public domain document, the Jokaso Act, it's not that it can be easily replicated or we are not encouraging, but at least the framework of the Jokaso Act can be read by the participants so that they understand the nuances of framing a sort of a good regulatory system at a national level or at the state level. So we can share the act also if the permission of Hashimoto-san.
Yeah, fortunately, Jokaso is translated in English and it is made public. I will send it to you maybe today or tomorrow by email. So please share the participants.
The video is also there in the learning management system, so you can watch the video. I would also encourage to watch the Dumagate video in light of the conversations we had.
Yeah.
Before was different, but in light of the conversation Dr. Sitaram said, I think I would encourage everybody. It is not a long video, just 7-8 minutes. Watch it again and you will really get new perspectives, as he said.
And if Dr. Sitaram, after going through all your questions and queries, left a note with us, we'll be sharing that further with you. So I think we have done better on time today than last time, and I'm of course progresses, we'll do progressively well. So thank you very much for, of course, I don't have to thank the technical speakers, they are part of our team, but thank you very much all of you for being so active and for all the wonderful questions. Apologies for some questions which we would have left back, we will come back to you with the FAQs. Thank you and see you again on Wednesday, and have a great weekend, all of you.
Thank you. See you.